The official call is under review. Let's go to the monitor.
Halloween can be spooky. It's full of tricks and treats. Good thing there are two bearded brothers to help you get through all of the SEC matchups.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Under Review podcast. Today, I'm riding solo. Todd had to take care of a couple personal things, but nonetheless, the show must go on. Again, I'm the co-host, Marty, here today. It is our Halloween week, so we want to jump into a few things today. We got one or two really good matchups in the SEC, and hopefully we can get through it without too many mess-ups, because it's my first time just running through it by myself. So it might take me a little bit longer to click some buttons. I do have a special guest for us today, and hope I can get him in. But before we actually start getting into it, let's go to hear from our sponsors.
This episode of the Under Review podcast is brought to you by Chuck's Heating and Air. Chuck has over 40 years of service and experience with residential services. He services most makes and models. He is Alabama licensed, bonded, and insured, and locally owned and operated. Are you hot and you're supposed to be cool? Are you cool and you're supposed to be hot? Then you've got a problem. Call Chuck. Area code 256-892-2757. Again, 256-892-2757. Chuck's Heating and Air.
So again, guys, this is going to be our Halloween hangover. You still got baskets of your kids' candies laying around. Pick a few Snickers up, throw them in your pie hole, and let's listen to some Under Review. So our first match this week is out of conference match. Not really two good teams. Both teams are sitting at 4-4. Oklahoma and Maine. This game is at 1:30 on the SEC ESPN Plus. Maine is in the CAA conference. They're 11 out of 16. They're really not a whole lot there. I mean, Oklahoma's not either, but I really don't see this going any other way than the Sooners. They're a 98% chance to win. Maine's got a 1.6. That's not a whole lot of room to do anything other than lose. I did look at both their schedules. Oklahoma has played a few tougher teams than Maine. So jump off early on the SEC wagon here, and let's go Oklahoma over Maine. Our next game is going to be Mississippi State and UMass. They are the 3:15 SEC network. Again, this is a 92% margin, a win here. UMass is 2-6, not good. Mississippi State's not either. They're still 1-6. Last in the SEC, just not good at all. But I think SEC here, you're going to get a win because you are the power conference. Mississippi State has a few more weapons, and Michael Van Buren and Kevin Coleman Jr., I think they can put it together. They might not score 50, 60 points, but it's not out of the realm for them to put up that many against this UMass, who, even the games that they've won, I don't even know the teams. So, yeah, let's go Mississippi State here. For this next game for me, I think it's going to be the biggest one. I will be at this game. Hopefully get some live content out for you guys. But the shockingly better team that has surprised us this year, the Vandy Commodores, are coming to Jordan-Hare Stadium at 11:45 on the SEC Network I think this could be a very pivotal game for both teams as Vandy's looking to get in the playoffs, and Auburn needs a few more wins. This could be helpful in getting them there. We just have to figure out what Auburn team's going to show up. Auburn had found a lot last week in just running the ball. As we said, 47-26. Passes over rushes over passes. Jacquez Hunter, nearly a 300-yard game, 2 touchdowns. And hopefully Auburn has found something, which in my notes, hopefully they have. Auburn is still a 62% chance to 36 against the 5-3 Commodores. But let's jump over to the other side. Vandy. Who is going to be there to help Diego Fabia? Yes, he leads in rushing. Yes, he leads in passing. But is that going to be enough to beat this Auburn team? If you watch some of Auburn's earlier game, yes, it will be easy. But I thought Auburn's back 7 picked up a lot last week, a lot of key, 2 interceptions. They played to the ball. I thought they really did everything it took to win. Yes, it was against a not-so-hot Kentucky team, but at the end of the day, a win is still a win. So could Vandy come in and beat Auburn? Most definitely. There's no doubt that I think they can. Have we seen the play of Pavia has really been a difference maker in their season, getting to 5 wins. Again, not because I'm an Auburn fan. I just think Auburn has, again, found something a little bit that they can work with. Moving the ball around, Peyton Thorne played one of his better games this year. I mean, there's not many of them, but he found Lambert Smith, Cam Coleman on a few couple plays. So I really think Auburn is on a small hot streak. Now, whether it lasts from this week to next week, we'll see. But again, I'm going to take Auburn here. Probably not the best opinion. Yeah, I've told Todd a couple of times that I wouldn't let my heartstrings, but I think Auburn can just be a little bit better if they play to their full potential. But if Vandy comes to play like they did against Alabama, they'll score 30, 40 points against the Auburn team who hasn't found their identity yet. Well, all right, guys. It's time to start our games of the week. Got really 4 good SEC games and a really good interstate game. I think it's going to be one of the best ones we've had all year besides the Oregon-Ohio State game. But first, I want to bring in our guest picker this week, a real good friend of mine. I met him a couple years ago. Let's see if I can get him in here. You should let him.
Hello. I think I'm in.
All right, what's up, my guy? I really can't see. Is your video on?
It can be now.
Okay, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce. This is my friend Cody Mealer to the Under Review podcast. Just a real quick rundown, Cody. Give the fans just a little bit know about you. I met Cody about 2 years ago working at Chick-fil-A, come instant friends. I mean, of course, he's an Alabama fan, but we can't help that. Man, we bonded over football. I started working with him in catering. We started doing the Friday night ball games and stuff like that, and come a really close friendship. I'm no longer with Chick-fil-A now. I mean, we talk once or twice a week or so, just cutting up, having a good time. So, Cody, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be on. I'm glad you asked me to do this. I'll tell the fans I'm a little nervous to be able to do this. First time I've ever had to do something like this. But yeah, I mean, I did. I met Marty about a couple years ago, and I was like, man, I can't click with this guy. He's an Auburn fan.
Well, I think what we first connected on was our love for movies and funny quotes and stuff like that. And
it was The Water Boy. Is the Water Boy? Yep. Football movie.
Yeah, Captain Insano, show no mercy.
I mean, sometimes you just you gotta let them have it, you know.
Right.
Go a little Bobby Boucher on them.
Yeah, I know you're super busy. I know y'all are wide open always up to Chick-fil-A, which is still one of my favorite places to eat and visit. I'm gonna come visit you tomorrow for a little bit.
If I could pan the camera around, our drive-through is dead for once.
That's a shocker. Well, I guess the kids are at school and parents should be at work or they went crawl back in bed. Well, all right, man. I know you said you did some research. We're going to jump in. Our first game we got this week, guys, is Ole Miss Rebels are going to travel down to Arkansas to hold up their number 19th rank. This is going to be the first game of the day, the 11 o'clock on ESPN. Arkansas at 5-3 has played really well in some games. You've had some good wins. But I think here Ole Miss has just got more weapons. Jackson Dart, Henry Parrish Jr. Has lived up to that 6-2 record that they have. Two really key losses in the SEC, but that still don't make them a bad team. It's like I consider Missouri to be one of the flops this year that went from a maybe top 10 class to considerably falling out of the playoff race. At this percentage, at 75%, Ole Miss does have the advantage, but Arkansas does have two great players in Jaquinda Jackson, Taylor Green, who can really push the ball and move and make that offense electric. So with only a 25% chance to win, who do you got right here?
So I did, like I said, I did some research and everything, and Jackson Dart on the season so far is 2,682 passing yards, which is solid at quarterback for him. This is a guy that's faced adversity with Ole Miss the last couple seasons, and I think has really come out and shown that he could potentially be I'd say not a top Heisman contender, but, could peek into the race later in the season.
Most definitely.
And so I think with Jackson Dart in the offense, he's got to stay on the top of his game, especially looking at Arkansas's defensive side. They held Bama to a very, very close game. And I believe Bama is one of those that is very explosive, but they shut that down. They were able to cover very well. So if they do that, there's going to be trouble for Jackson Dart driving the ball down the field. As far as Arkansas, though, one person that stood out to me is, defensively is TJ Metcalf. He's only a sophomore, but he's got 22 solo tackles, a forced fumble, and 3 interceptions on the season. And so if at DB, if he plays very well, there could be trouble for Jackson Dart. So I'm gonna go with Ole Miss pulls this one out, but it's gonna be a tight ball game.
Yeah,
with a win.
I can't say that I don't disagree with you there. Jackson has struggled a lot. Like you said, I think his Heisman has went down. I don't think he will be in New York, but I think he'll be on the outside looking in unless he just really picks up his play. But I think with some of his, again, Henry Parrish Jr., and they do have a wide receiver that's really good that has led in the SEC some, but I can't jump off his name real quick. But again, Arkansas was not super talented at defense, but they do have them playmakers that really shut Alabama down and almost pulled another upset. So again, yeah, let's lock it in with Rebels. 75% chance. Hopefully Jackson Dart and that offense come in. Maybe not put up college 25 numbers, but I think they can pull it off and hold up to what they're supposed to do. Do your job.
Yeah, I agree with you right there, Marty. I think Ole Miss pulls this one out, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout win for them. I think it's going to be a hard-fought ball game.
Most definitely. Well, so after that 11 o'clock game, you can jump over to ABC and find the next game, which I did a little more research than usual because it's another rivalry game that I didn't per se know about. I had heard about it until I looked into it more. At 2:30 on ABC, the world's largest cocktail party, which is the annual meeting between Florida and Georgia, which is shock to me. It's a neutral site game. They play in Jacksonville, which is also called the War of the Oar. They pretty much play for a boat paddle. What I did my research, but when I looked it up, apparently there's a river in Jacksonville, I believe, that I guess they fought for a boat paddle or paddled back and forth. But anyway, we've seen Florida, their record they're 4-3. Is that right? That don't sound right. But anyway, they've played crappy. Really found a little bit of streak here lately. That win against Kentucky, and which was horrible on Kentucky's end, which Kentucky is at the bottom, right just above Mississippi State in the SEC. 75% to pick the Bulldogs here. They got that number 2 now after the loss. So what do you got here? Florida, Georgia. It could be close, maybe depending on which Florida team shows up.
I agree with you there. But I feel like the good Florida team is going to come out of this because it's a rivalry game. I know you probably knew I was going to reference somewhere in there about Nick Saban, but Nick Saban's always said, the rivalry games, it didn't matter who you were playing during the regular season. The teams always seem to show up during the rivalry games. So, it's like Alabama-Auburn. You look at the end of the season, Auburn's played terrible throughout several seasons and come out and beat Bama. You bring your best in a rivalry game. So Florida is going to give the best, I believe, to Georgia. But Georgia is another one of those offensively and really defensively too that has tons of weapons spread across the field.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say offensively, Carson Beck has got a cannon. But the biggest thing with them, Alabama did a good thing stopping it, at the beginning of the season, was the run with ETN. It's gonna be more of, Florida is gonna have to stop the RPOs and watching your run pass option because Georgia's good at it this year.
Yeah, I really think so. I'd say, I think Beck, again, as some of the other quarterbacks and Heisman front runners that early in the season, I think Beck has lost a little bit, fell down. He come back, played a really strong second half against Alabama, which we've talked about before in the podcast. Which Georgia team comes out play first? Is it that first half really good team or second half good team? Just going to pick which quarters. But I think in this game they can, put it together. That one loss on the season is against that Alabama team, which come into the later seconds of the ball game. I want to jump back to the Florida side. That blowout win against Kentucky is not saying much, but DJ, as we talked about with Vandy, DJ Lagway is going to need some help with Mertz done for the season. What are the key players that could help him? Who's going to step up? Montrell Johnson is a beast. Elijah Badger really played the last couple games. So I'm, again, a numbers guy, and we've seen the good Florida, we've seen the bad Florida, but we've seen less, on the other side, we've seen less bad Georgia than bad Florida. So, again, I think Kirby Smart gets the Dogs ready to play. Florida could run it close for a quarter or so, but at the end, I think the Bulldogs are really going to step around and take the battle, boat paddle war, whatever.
Well, and I'll say this too. I agree with you. I think Georgia does win the ball game, depending on which Georgia team shows up, which half. If the good Georgia team shows up in the first half, and then you get the bad Georgia team in the second half, it depends on where your score's at. But I feel honestly that Georgia could pull this one out by double digits.
Yeah, and as well, I think they if this ugly two-sided monster of Florida shows up and the turnovers continue, which we've seen all year, I really think it could get bad. But like you stated, the rivalry games, it does push. But how far does effort outweigh the, I guess, talent for the Florida side? Because we know they can compete, but I think that's all I don't think they can compete and win. I think they can compete but not win. So I'm going to go the Bulldogs here.
I'm with you on that one. I got the Bulldogs, and I hate to say it for Florida, but I feel like they pulled this one out by at least a good double-digit win.
And like I said, nobody will be shocked if it happens, because then we'll be like, oh, it's the same Florida team. But Napier's fighting for his job, so that could come into play later on down if he does win this game. But as me and Todd said before, I don't think Napier's going to be the first thing smoking when they play that last game anyway. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Another one we're going to jump down. It's a 6. After that game, you can jump over to the SEC network for a I won't say highly contested because could be, as the Florida-Georgia game, a bloodbath. The number 7 Tennessee Volunteers will be playing at home against Kentucky Wildcats. 3-5 versus 6-1. 91% chance for Tennessee to get another win. Be it 7-1. I really hear it's not about how they're going to win, it's about how much they're going to win by. I mean, I could be totally out because Kentucky does have 3 wins. I mean, they did play that one decent game against SEC. I don't, off the top of my head, who it was.
Georgia.
Was it really?
They nearly beat Georgia.
That's right. Okay, well, I just, after watching them play Auburn and seeing how bad, even both quarterbacks, there was 2 or 3 interceptions, and they just couldn't get off the field on defense. There's so many questions at quarterback for Vandergriff. He's very talented kid, but I don't think he makes the right reads here a lot. He panics. He runs out of the ball, tackles for losses. I think they start piling up. I just don't, as a Kentucky fan, you want to say, hey, let's get somebody else in there. But when you turn to their backup, I mean, the kid, his first pass was a pick 6, I believe, last week against Auburn. So I'm not really high on this game as far as Kentucky having a fighting chance. I mean, we have seen Tennessee struggle in a few quarters. Right now, Sir Nico Amalamalewa is really close to...
I wasn't even going to attempt to try and say his name.
Right. But on the podcast, we call him Sir Nico. He is, really close to 1,500 yards. I think he could excel here. The back 7 at Kentucky has really struggled. Peyton Thorne had a good bit of yards against him last week. But I really think, as we've seen Dylan Sampson, the running back for Tennessee, I think he is posed for another breakout game. I think he's had a couple games with more than 2 touchdowns. I think he could do it here. Maybe not video game numbers, but Sampson really has ran the ball well. And against that Kentucky defense, I don't see it being anything other than a Tennessee win here.
Well, I'm gonna go with this right here. Dylan Sampson has been able to put up what he has because, in my opinion, Tennessee has one of the best offensive lines, front 5 guys in the SEC right now. That is just my opinion. They play very well together. They're uniform. They do their jobs correctly, getting the blocking schemes down. I will say they open up a lot of areas for Sampson to make his cutbacks and to get big yardage. I mean, he did that against Alabama, and I don't expect anything less against Kentucky here. Now, the one thing I'll say about Vandergriff going to the Kentucky side is the game he played against Georgia, he was very well poised. He sat in the pocket. He made his throws. He knew when to get outside. The difference is in the other games, especially like against Auburn. Auburn is one of those defensive teams that they pressure the quarterback. They come off the edge a whole lot. They send linebackers up the middle to get blitzes down on them. They pressure the quarterback. And a lot of times I don't think he had been pressured yet up until that point. And so, if Tennessee does what they did with Jalen Milroe and containing him to the pocket and pressuring, I don't think Kentucky is even close in this ball game. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that defensively and offensively, as y'all call him, Sir Nico is gonna have a big game, and so is Sampson, the running back from Tennessee, and they're gonna. I'm not gonna say pull away early, but they're going to pull away in this game.
Yeah, I definitely think the same. I think, man, if Todd was here, I think he would say the same. bottom two of the SEC is Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Auburn's right there with them. So, I mean, not a bad thing. It's just I don't think it's their year. I mean, we had them picked a little bit higher just because we thought there would be better play there. But no, number 7 gets it done. All right. So this next game here is one I've been super excited about since I know that we were going to cover this game. Big Ten game on 11 on Fox.
This episode of the Under Review podcast
How did I hit that
is brought to you by Chuck's Heating and Air. Chuck has over 4.
Yeah, Todd's going to get a chuckle out of that. And I already had it pulled up. I said, look at me doing something good. Let's see if I can. There we go. We'll see if that one works.
Over 40 years of... This episode of the Under Review podcast.
All right, well, that's enough of that talk, and he can edit it later. But no, Big Ten matchup really has a end of the year feel rivalry game type set. Playoff contentions here. Number 4, number 3. Number 3, Ohio, Penn State 7-0. Number 4, Ohio State 6-1. Really big game for the Big Ten and really big game for the conference. I got a few notes in. Penn State's looking to lose this game, being the higher seed at 40-60. So what do you got? What you think?
I gotta say, I'm going Ohio State. I'm gonna say this. I'm not a huge Ryan Day fan, to be honest. Personally, I can't stand him.
Yeah, I think he's a crazy old man. He looks like a crazy old man.
But Ryan Day does know football. If anything, I would give him some credit. He does know football. And Will Howard has had a exceptional year, except for the one kneel down slide with 1 second left. I would have stepped out of bounds, but, I'm not the quarterback.
Yeah. Never claimed to be neither, right?
No, I was always the fat guy. But anyway, I think Will Howard is solid at quarterback for Ohio State. They're gonna have their hands full a little bit with this defense. It being a rivalry game, being top
Big
5 ball game.
Yeah, Big Ten game, really.
And so, but one thing I will say is Ohio State always has a solid defense. Always. They got one of the best safeties out on the field in the country, and they took him from Alabama, and that's Caleb Downs.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's already had a couple of picks this season.
Yeah, big loss for Alabama. I know Brittany was real upset with him leaving. But no,
So,
I mean, go ahead.
But so I think if Penn State doesn't really key down on their factors with the defensive side of Ohio State, you and them commercials.
Well, I was just trying to go ahead and get it set up, but no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But no, you're good. Like I said, I think that if Penn State doesn't really narrow down that defense for Ohio State, they're going to have trouble with that front 7 and those DBs. And then at safety, you got Caleb Downs, who can read just about anything. So I think very close ball game here. I think it goes down to the fourth quarter. Very close ball game, but I'm going Ohio State Buckeyes on this one.
Yeah, that slide down that resulted in Ohio State's only loss to a really good Oregon team and Dylan Gabriel. But Penn State defensively has only allowed 100 points this year, which is in 7 games. It's not bad. 7 games. I think they've had one shutout, and they had 30-something points against Oregon, or 36 points. But on the other side of that coin, their offense has put up 233 yards. They do have a fairly high-powered offense. But I think, again, Ohio State can keep it close. And you said to Will Howard and Jaquindon Jackson or Judkins, Really, really awesome in the backfield. I like them. OSU does have a few injuries on the offensive line. I think the offensive tackle was banged up. I hadn't seen the injury report. It won't come out till later this week. So, again, poised for a super good early game. I'm excited. I can get up, get my sugar-free candies and get ready to start off this. But, again, I think Will Howard, fixes the mistakes from that last game. I think it was a teaching moment for him. And I'm going to take the Buckeyes here. Oh, let's see if I can click some buttons and get Todd to say bad words. Interstate. Nope. All right. So, let me... This week's Game of the Week is going to be on ABC at 6:30. The number 10 Texas Longhorns go to the 4-3 South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm gonna click that one. All right, what you got here on this one, my friend?
Well,
I said Texas Longhorns. I meant the dadgum Aggies. I can't even
I
read my...
I was like, I'm looking at my notes that you sent me, and I got Texas A&M Aggies, and you over here calling them the Longhorns.
Look, I was trying to do a super professional intro and on that, and it went to something.
We went from here real quick.
Yeah, that's an inside Chick-fil-A joke there for people watching.
But I was gonna say you got the wrong cow on that one.
Yeah.
So, but Texas A&M versus South Carolina. This is a big ball game. Texas A&M has actually surprised me this year. In my bracket, I had them a little bit lower in the SEC.
As well as we did here.
And so I was very shocked at how well they've played so far. South Carolina has been another one that has potentially had good play, but they're another one of those teams that's like Kentucky and Florida. What team are you gonna get? Now, the biggest thing here is which defense is going to be able to hold up. Because in my opinion, both offenses are very explosive and can break out in big plays at any moment. So which defense is going to take that stand to kind of get that last stop or that key stop of the ball game and, win this thing? I'm going to say it's a very close game. It comes down again to the fourth quarter, like the Penn State-Ohio State game. We're going to come down to a fourth quarter ball game. But I'm going with an upset here and saying South Carolina upsets Texas A&M.
I'll have to write that one down because we'll definitely let you hear about it. No, I think that's not a bad choice. There's so many questions in this game that I'm going to need answered before I can really pick out it. I know Texas A&M has had a quarterback controversy, but I think Marcel Reed done an excellent job. The last game come in, scored had three drives that really prevailed them last week. Connor Weidman is your senior, or not senior, but your upperclassman who's come in. He's got the poise. I think you can rotate both quarterbacks in there to keep it. And on the other side of the ball, what is your game plan for two quarterbacks? South Carolina has one of these stellar defenses in the SEC, 28 sacks, tons of tackles for losses. But to your point, is it their ready to go defense? I mean, I have bagged on Debo Williams all year, and Edwards, I think it is, that me and Todd talked about a good bit. So hopefully we get that defense, keep it close. A&M has struggled a little bit. I mean, they done moved up to number 10. Le'Veon Moss is a really good back. He gets an open field, and he can't be touched with a stick. But on the other side, South Carolina's offense, Rocket Sanders, Lenore Sellers have shown games where they're super poised. They make the right calls and do that. So, man, this is – and like I said, I've been so high on South Carolina, really, but I just – the way Texas A&M played last week was just, I think, too much. Again, numbers guy, I like the 7-1. I like a 10 over an unranked. So I'm going to stay in my lane and take Texas A&M.
Well, and just for kind of some clarification on my end, the reason why I went with this is Lenore Sellers has been outstanding. His passing yards and everything is low. I get that at 968 on the year. But he has also had 84 carries for 247 yards, which in my opinion is a very, very dangerous weapon against Texas A&M.
Oh, most definitely.
Texas A&M in past years, I haven't really got to watch them much this year, but in past years defensively, they like to spread their front seven. They like to spread their ends wide, and you've got your nose and tackle playing kind of more on an outside shade of the shoulder, playing a little wider out, and your linebackers are a little bit tight, but they're going to kind of play, a little bit of coverage. They may blitz every now and then to get pressure. But with the big thing is you're going to open up the middle on pass pro a lot for Sellers. It doesn't take a big gap for him to break out and take off.
Right, most definitely. And Texas, go ahead.
Oh, and I'm sorry about that, Marty. But so I think the biggest thing for Texas A&M is going to be him on his feet and not so much through the air.
Yeah, they have to really get it. See, they're going to Texas. We've seen them struggle, but again, they put it just Texas A&M. I keep not putting the A&M on the end of that.
Arch Manning is a totally different man.
yeah. So I think South Carolina, if they can get that figured out, with Sellers and Sanders, I consider Sellers a dual threat quarterback as far as you gave the numbers there for him. But Sanders is a back for back. You can rely on him. He's had a few turnover issues, some in the season, but Le'Veon Moss had a big fumble last week in that Texas A&M win early, which I do think Texas A&M won that game, but I think LSU lost it more in their later play. But I think you start Weidman here, get the reps for Marcel Reed in. If Weidman does struggle, because he did struggle a little bit, but you start your main guy, let Reed come in, Le'Veon Moss do the job. Texas A&M 8-1 and are still standing at the top of the SEC.
We'll see how they play this week, like you said, and again, being top of the SEC. I think, what is it, Texas A&M and Texas or Ole Miss or like the top of
No, it's Texas and Texas A&M, Texas. I had it pulled up. Let's see if I can find it because I know I had it. That's not it. That's maybe it. But I know it's Texas A&M. Maybe LSU was up there. But like I said, I'm not going to waste it. But anyway, like I said, man, Cody, first of all, I super appreciate you getting in. Glad got some time to talk some football as always. Exciting week of football. Of course, I'm definitely going to be texting you through these games, let you know, hey, especially after Texas A&M does what they need to do.
You suck again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, again, fans, like I said, we're right at about 40 minutes, which is good. Hopefully we can get Todd back for the cap show that we have. Just to clean up, want to shout out to Chuck's Heating and Air for being a great sponsor, to our buddies over at the Dadpod, Big Head and Chicken Legs, Hunter Nick again. I always love messing with them guys. Hayden Coker at HCS Media, Jud and Brandon. And Cody, when you go back in, give all my guys a shout. Ben, Chaz, Miss V, Colin, Chase.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So like I said, guys, thanks for the comments. Oh, and this week, with it being Halloween, we're going to try to get a few things on Facebook, so please be involved. I think I'm going to put a poll up here as soon as we get off. We like the feedback. Sponsorships are available. We do have sponsorship plans. If you're out there looking and want to get involved a little bit more with the under review. So, all right, well, let's close her out right here. Fine.
Thanks for making the call to go under review. Join us next time as we go to the monitors. Until then, keep your flag handy.